Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Death by Adaptation podcast, a bi-weekly book club where we choose one classic book and compare and contrast it against its cinematic adaptations. I'm your host, Nicolò Grasso, and I'm joined, as always, by the great Ewan Gleadow. How are you doing, Ewan? Welcome back.
Sorry, I just popped my can of lemonade open. I'm alright, thanks. I missed last week because I was... Where was I? I don't
Enjoying
remember.
a bit of a holiday. You were in Dublin.
Kind of, yeah. I had to go and see Bryan Adams in concert.
Was it worth it?
No. I spent £7 on a beer. I don't like beer.
Jesus.
But, no, other than that, I've just been mulling about. I don't know. I mean, you can see the big TV next to me.
Yeah.
I've been playing Level 3 because I'm 12. No, it's been good. No, I've a quiet week. I joined the gym. I can't feel my arms. And now I get to talk about this.
Yeah. Those are good days. It's June. It's summer is here, so it's good to be back, with the boys to talk about some good stuff. And we're not alone this time around. We have lovely guest, friend of the podcast, just friend in general, the host of the Uncut Gems pod, Mr. Jakub Flasz. How are you, Jakub?
You are not alone. I just have to say it. I'm doing well, thanks. It's just, I'm a co-host because, it's a family effort. Come on.
The creator of the Uncut Gems podcast.
Am I though?
The daddy, the big daddy.
The big daddy.
Please don't call him
Papa.
the big daddy.
Please start calling me Papa. I want someone to call me Papa. Because
Papa.
A few years ago, we were binging through Downton Abbey with my wife, and this was kind of like my sort of. I mean, it was a few years ago before I was a dad. It was like I want when we have a kid, I want to have this sort of idea that she calls me Papa. It's like, Papa, can we go to the park, please?
Did you like Downton Abbey?
No, not really.
Okay.
I mean, it's all right. I mean, after a while, it kind of goes stale.
It's grim. The film was horrible. I mean, to be fair, I was the youngest person in that cinema by about 7 years.
Oh no, this is just a TV show. Like, but when they killed off Dan Stevens, I was like, damn, I'm done. Thanks.
He went on to greener pastures,
Did he?
Yeah, he did the guest. He did
Oh,
Beauty and the Beast.
him.
The cobbler. Great career, very successful.
Oh, God. Jesus.
But yes, we are here today.
Cobbler.
Almost, yeah, it's crazy. Almost a year after we started doing the show, with the Once Upon a Time in Hollywood episode back in July. We're nearing our 1-year anniversary.
Jesus.
And the gang is back together to talk about some good books and some good cinema. Because today, after, a little bit of a break from darkness and depravity with Edith Wharton's The Age of Innocence, we are back with some pure nihilism.
Some more darkness and depravity.
Supreme dark, not so much depravity, but quite a lot of darkness, quite a lot of nihilism, and quite a lot of, a strong deconstruction and criticism of the United States of America, which we always like to do on this show. Let's talk about Cormac McCarthy's No Country for Old Men.
What's the most you ever lost on a coin toss?
Sir?
The most you ever lost on a coin toss?
I don't know. I couldn't say.
Call it.
Call it.
Yes.
For what?
Just call it.
Well, we need to know what we're calling it for here.
You need to call it. I can't call it for you. Well, it wouldn't be fair.
I didn't put nothing up.
Yes, you did. You've been putting it up your whole life. You just didn't know it. You know what date is on this coin?
No.
1958. It's been traveling 22 years to get here. And now it's here. And it's either heads or tails. And you have to say, call it.
Well, look, I need to know what I stand to win.
Everything.
How's that?
You stand to win everything, call it.
All right. Heads, then.
Well done. Don't put it in your pocket.
Sir?
Don't put it in your pocket. It's your lucky quarter.
Where do you want me to put it?
Anywhere not in your pocket. Or it'll get mixed in with the others and become just a coin. Which it is.
No Country for Old Men came out in July 2005 by Cormac McCarthy, who is considered now to be one of the great American writers. He has written, of course, Blood Meridian, the Pulitzer Prize winning The Road. He has written a few screenplays. His movies have been, his books have been adapted to multiple films, and he's just very much beloved. Though it is interesting that every time one of his books comes out, they receive mixed reception. There are some people that find them to be excessively dark, a bit too cold, and just
Who are these people? I need names.
just critics. Just go read reviews, early reviews from the 80s of Blood Meridian, and
I
you will
need
find
names
people
and
saying,
addresses because I'm right on going on to sendpoo.com, which is a real website where you can
No.
for $29.99 you can send poo to a given address.
That's a bargain.
Harold Bloom did not like the book, although he is dead.
Harold.
So
We sent it to the grave.
And you can choose whether you want donkey, elephant, horse, or something else.
All for the same price. No price
But
difference.
there are price differences
Oh,
because
there's
some animals
tiers.
are more difficult to track. I have a feeling
I
that
guess.
these are businesses kind of started by people who work in zoos, and they're like, "I know what we can do, guys." Anyway.
This is the truly disturbing, disgusting part of the episode.
it doesn't get
Jack's
much better.
back.
Yeah, one of the things is that of Cormac McCarthy is that whenever he releases a book, relatively mixed reception, but then give it 3, 4, 5, 10 years tops, they're going to be very much beloved. And that is the case with No Country for Old Men. Again, released in 2005, the story of a drug deal gone wrong. The wrong man finds a suitcase full of money at the place. Should he take it? Should he leave it? Might as well take it, because what's gonna happen? No one's gonna notice $2 million missing from this botched drug deal. But unfortunately, that's not the case. Some people really want that money, and some people hire famed assassin Anton Chigurh to track this man down and kill him. And so begins a game of cat and mouse that takes us, the readers, through the deepest depths of the American frontier in 1980. What a story. Let's just get right into it. Jakub, as our guest, what are your thoughts of the novel No
The
Country
novel?
for Old Men?
Okay, let's start with the novel.
As always, yeah.
I've read Blood Meridian before, so I was acutely aware of how Cormac McCarthy writes, and then when I picked up No Country for Old Men, which I think, by the way, was originated as a screenplay,
It did, yeah. Which is very interesting.
it transported me. Like, holy shit, is this book great? Like, I'm not even kidding. Like, I'm reading Cormac McCarthy now, and I'm just thinking to myself. I mean, now I'm reading Fight Club for another upcoming episode, right? But I should be done soon because this book is not very thick. Anyway, but but I'm thinking to myself, there's like when people say, "Oh, he's one of the great American writers," usually there's a lot of hyperbole built into these statements. But to me, this guy's on. In terms of volume, he doesn't really have that much because he doesn't write that prolifically. And he's already
like
in
10 books.
10 to 12
to
novels, but he has to write screenplays and stuff like essays and whatever. But in general, he's on par for me with Ernest Hemingway. Like, and I love Ernest Hemingway to death. Like, he's the sort of he's like, I don't know, the way he writes just makes me fall in love with books again every single time I pick up a book of his. So I really enjoyed No Country for Old Men, and I think this is an understatement. I think this book is written so it's such a perfectly edited book, by the way, as well.
Mhm.
There's no fat on this baby. There's zero. It's lean, it's mean, and it's engrossing, and it's gross and engrossing. It's such a great experience. It's just bonkers mad. Like, it's just great. I don't know. I loved it, and it is properly cinematic as well. It kind of it's very weird. It's a very weird sort of experience, because you read this and you don't even feel like you're reading a book. And this is something that very often kind of gets, I don't know, maybe when I don't know, when I don't like books that much, it kind of, you kind of just feel like you're just, okay, I'm waddling through pages here. But in here, you just, I'm sitting down, and then I'm out for an hour. And it's just all of a sudden, it's just, well, where have I been? Oh, I know, I've been to Texas. That's where I've been. So I'm a fan. I love this book. I love how it's structured. I love how it's written. I love in general how Cormac McCarthy writes, because for those who don't know, like, he doesn't really believe in punctuation. Like, so you kind of have to, like, after, like, I've having read Blood Meridian, I've learned this already, that you kind of have to just assume a voice in your head that speaks these lines with the regional accent, and then everything makes sense. Like, you're being, like, I basically imagined, like, in my head, I was reading this book with Tommy Lee Jones's voice. And it's brilliant. It's just, you're being told this grim story by this old seasoned veteran sheriff who's, I don't know, who's trying to kind of just I don't know, reckon with his past, and then just try to think try to make sense of the evil that got away when he was almost on his way out. It's such a great book. Love it. Anyway, over to you guys. Over.
I love your enthusiasm, and Cormac McCarthy's style. I had to look it up, the actual term of the syntax that he uses, but it's polysyndeton's. He uses a lot of deliberate insertions of conjunctions into a sentence. It slows down the rhythm. It gives it that cinematic quality that you're talking about. It's a lot of, like, the script, very simple and effective, just descriptions of actions and characters,
He uses ends as well, like,
and
and he walked in the room and he wiped his ass and he made himself breakfast, and then he left. And
but,
you
like,
feel like
half
you're
the
being told a
speed when you're
story,
reading it.
like
Yeah,
like a grandpa's telling you a story. It's great.
it's terrific. It's terrific. How about you, Ewan? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, it's pretty good. Nah, I
Only.
think it's really good. It's very, very good. I feel like when I say good, I mean something better than what people think when I say good. Like, good is
It's the British
it's
good.
good, British good, which is great. No, I read The Road last year, and coming to grips with, his style and his prose, and the big word that you said earlier that I've forgotten.
Polysyndeton's.
Yeah.
Polysyndeton's. It's the word of the week.
But that style, he really does it with such flourish, and it's just a real pleasure to read that. And I think more so with No Country for Old Men, because No Country for Old Men is not simple, but it has so much going on, and it's told in such a simple and engrossing way. It's really easy to lose yourself in that, and it's a lot of fun. I think it's McCarthy toying with a lot of narrative structure and a lot of prose, and it just works so well. It's just a lovely book, lovely.
Nice. It's been a while since I've done this, but I have history with this book. We're going back to 2011. I think I might have mentioned this off microphone once or twice, but back when this movie came out, it was a big deal. I remember it, like, everyone was watching it, and I was just 11 years old back in Sardinia, and my sister had heard of it. And the way she described it, like, she was too scared to watch it because one of her classmates watched the movie of No Country for Old Men, and they were like, "Oh, and there's, like, this man who uses this, like, weird gas pump, something, and he just, like, headshots people with it." And she was like, "Oh, it's disturbing." I was like, "Oh, this
What a
sounds
great way to describe the film.
that sounds interesting." I was like, "That's all they were talking about." I was like, "This is interesting. I want to watch it." And they were like, "No, it was forbidden to anyone under 14." I was still a bit, like, chicken shit about those things. I was like, "I'm not gonna watch it or anything." But then in 2011, The Road had come out as well, the movie, which was also not for everyone, say R-rated here in Italy. And so I was like, I cannot watch it, but I can go to the library and read it.
Teenagers read it. It's a school reading material, right, Ewan?
I
For the UK?
Yeah.
I did Of Mice and Men.
All right.
It might be.
They do the road for school.
I think so. Yeah.
I
I
imagine
hope
so.
high school.
Yeah.
I
High
think
school,
it's I
can
think it's
see.
part of the curriculum for high
Yeah.
school students.
12-year-olds
or
get to
secondary
read it.
school students. Anyway,
Oh man. Anyway, yes. I read The Road and loved it. And I also picked up right after. I was like, No Country for Old Men, it's time. And I read it and I was blown away by it. And I finally, and just revisiting it for this podcast was glorious. And not only did I revisit No Country for Old Men, but I also was like, I want to read more. So I ended up picking up Blood Meridian. I started reading Child of God. I even watched The Counselor because it was like, I want more McCarthy in my life. And after this, I actually have the Border trilogy, yes, and coming my way. Like, I'm a fan. I'm properly like borderline obsessed with this man's writing. I don't really have aspirations of writing in any way in my life. I always I see myself more as a filmmaker. I have written a few stories when I was younger. I've written like one or two over the past year, but just very very simple. And something that I always found, uh, something that I struggled with was just the syntax. Because I was like, I like things to be like simple and straightforward. It was always like, no, you have to be like lose yourself in the descriptions, kind of like a J.R.R. Tolkien that takes 5 pages to talk about a forest. It's like, oh, I don't like that. Like, leave it up to the people. That's all I want to do. And reading Cormac McCarthy recently just re-sparked my passion for writing. It's like this is like you can find your own style. This is achievable. You can do this. And I think No Country for Old Men, I think you said it best, Jakub, it's just cinematic. You can feel this being a script prior to being a proper novel because it's so inherently visual. McCarthy hates exposition. He loves monologues or he loves just stretches of silence, but he seldom has, prolonged dialogues that take more than 2 pages
I mean,
to reach a
he
conclusion.
does have them. You just don't notice
It's
because there's no
quotation marks.
there's no quotation marks and there's like when I don't know when people let's just say when Tolkien wrote dialogue, it will be just and then Mary said, "Oh, let's go to the forest." To which Sam replied, "This and that and the other," and then you feel like you're being okay. There's a format that you follow, and then Hemingway had this that it would be just quotation marks, and then just like, "No, how about that? I don't know," and then there's no sort of no appropriation of say who's saying what. You're supposed to be paying attention, so you're supposed to be in the story. And then this guy goes one step further and it's like, who fucking needs quotation marks? let's just do this.
Well, that's because dialogue is just as important as actions in his stories, and that's beautiful. And one thing that's the key difference between the book and the film is the fact that, of course, he delves deeper into the backstory of the characters. And let's just talk about them. Let's talk about the characters. Let's talk about the sheriff. I forgot the name. Jeez.
Sheriff
Tom
McSheriffson.
Bell, Sheriff McSheriffson, Tom Bell, Ed Bell, who narrates is like the constant through line throughout the book. He narrates it. We could even say is the protagonist. How do you feel about this sheriff? A Vietnam veteran who is just eaten alive by guilt of something that he did in the war. How do you feel about him as as an anchor point for the narrative?
I think if we look at how much sort of film and art there is on, oh, he's a war veteran, he did nasty things in the war, and then it relies on this. It's a very overblown genre, but I think it works so well here. And there are a few examples of where it works truly, truly well to have the aftershock of the war. And as it runs through, it really does add a lot of layers to a character that could have just been a generic Vietnam War veteran. I'm always reminded of Rolling Thunder, the film from the 70s. Which
Sheriff was in World War II, right?
Yeah, in the book it's World War II, isn't it? I think in
No, Sheriff was in World War II. Llewellyn was in Vietnam.
Was it?
That
things around about, isn't it?
I think Llewellyn was in Vietnam and Carson Wells was in Vietnam as well because they have this conversation.
Yes.
We
talk about that. You're right, actually. Yeah.
But I think the Sheriff is much older than they are, so he was in World War II.
It's like 20 years older. Yeah.
Yeah. Point still stands though. It's essentially the whole soldier goes to war, does bad things, can't save whoever, or does something wrong, comes home, has to deal with the consequences, and how those consequences are laid out is essentially the most important part of it. And I think McCarthy does it best of all. Essentially, it's a real display of grief, it's a real display of guilt, but it's also a display of animated action. It's essentially the picking between the lines and seeing that, like Jakub said, the cinematic approach to it. It's, I mean, the writing style and the lack of dialogue, not the lack of dialogue, but the lack of speech marks. It reminds us a bit of Irvin Welsh, who I imagine just copied this.
True,
I,
true.
I can blame him because like I spent sorry to barge in, but like in terms of like reigniting people's passion for writing, I kind of consider I'm actively considering just trying this out. This idea of
Yes.
just writing with the sort of stream of consciousness of like this is what's happening, right? Just to be in media res, like be in this, just stay focused instead of just like I don't know if a comma fixes and say who fucking cares if a comma is appropriate. Like I don't even know. Like grammar's for losers. Jesus, space is fake. Moon is made of cheese.
It's the like that conscious stream that's essentially the character speaking through your words, and it's I see where he comes from, where it's like to essentially castrate that with punctuation and spelling and grammar. It removes some of the immediacy of it. That sort of, oh my god, I need to write this now and fire it onto the page and just leave it. But I mean that goes against everything I was taught at uni for 3 years to not edit and not correct and not make sure everything's perfectly laid out, but actually see it work is so
I think
refreshing.
he edits his work.
Yeah. Oh god, yeah.
It
But
takes
he won't.
years. I was
But
reading
he's
up
just
on that.
it's just
Like-
grammar is what he doesn't care about. Like it's supposed to be like when it's like, well, this is how people would just say, like instead of I would have done it, it was just like I would have done it or I would have done it because he wants you to think the way people speak. So
Yeah.
people would be speaking in certain ways, and there would be the words he writes have a sound. They have
Yes.
accents.
Even
grounds it
even
in a time
the
and place.
even when it's not dialogue, though, it's like the description of an action or like a character. It actually feels fresh and it feels different. It feels like it's actually taking on that character, that diatribe, that sort of colloquial southern charm. Essentially,
Mhm.
it's I think it's quite difficult to do that. Surely to actually make it so that writing without punctuation.
I bet you money when Cormac McCarthy sees a semicolon, he gets diarrhea.
It's like, oh, blasphemy.
Blasphemy.
Semicolons are for cowards.
Is it Faulkner who said this? Like, was it like semicolon is this sort of hermaphrodite bit of punctuation? The only thing it does, it tells me that you went to college.
I mean, especially for like fiction, like fair enough if you use it, but just be simple, keep it simple. No need to lose yourself with those things. Short sentences, they work the best. But yeah, Sheriff Bell. One of the things that I find interesting about No Country for Old Men is how I want to say useless the police force is. Um, and that kind of plays into the entire story because again we've mentioned Child of God, we've mentioned Blood Meridian. They are westerns. They're set in the late 19th century,
It is
early
a western.
20th century. Yeah, and No Country for Old Men, even though it's set in 1980, it is still a modern western, and it takes a lot of the iconography of the genre of stories to subvert the expectations that you have going in. And one of the classic archetypes is the sheriff. The sheriff is the cool guy. He rides a horse. He saves the day. He represents goodness. He's lawful good, you could say. And and you're reading,
Doing your D&D analogies.
which I've never played actually.
You've never played D&D. What a poser!
Always, always.
Jesus Christ.
I'm chaotic neutral, but that's what I love about.
It's like
the sh-
going to a Halloween party dressed as Freddy Krueger and you've never seen Nightmare on Elm Street.
like yeah, it's my favorite cameo from Ready Player One, But anyway,
Can we not mention Ready Player One on a Cormac McCarthy podcast? The man would turn in his grave if he was dead.
I pissed myself a little.
Honestly, for any listener out there, no, we're not going to be doing Ready Player One anytime
Are
soon.
you sure about that?
No.
I'll add it to my list.
Well, that's up to you, actually. If you want to torture me,
No,
we can
God, no.
do
I've
it.
suffered enough in my life.
Yeah, we enjoy some goodness. Well, I don't know, maybe.
It
Anyway,
doesn't fit the theme of dark and depraved books that we often feature.
true. But yes, just I love the way McCarthy subverts the expectations of the genre of westerns, because at the end of the day, the sheriff is useless. He's an old, tired man filled with guilt, trying to do good, and he cannot do anything. He still keeps people from living, or he lets some people die, like Llewellyn. If we want to get
Keeps
closer to the
people
ending
from
of the story.
living.
It was a very odd phrasing, I know, I apologize.
It's just like what kind of does.
It kind of does. But just it's very depressing. Like, you have these three main characters basically in the story. You have the sheriff, you have Llewellyn, who is the man that steals the money, and you have Anton Chigurh, who is the embodiment of evil.
Well, there's also Mr. Wells.
And there's also Mr. Wells. But just those three men, like, nothing goes the way you expect them to go in a conventional story. The sheriff doesn't catch the bad guy. It doesn't even shoot a single shot in the entire story. It's just kind of useless and just kind of out there witnessing the world going to absolute shit and ruining itself more and more as the decades go on. And it just, I can only witness it and just sit down and accept it in a way. You have Llewellyn, who is greedy, who has a bit of love for his wife, who has a bit of ambition, and is very clever. That's one of the things that I appreciate. He's a very clever man. The way he tries to run away and hide, but at the end of the day, you cannot run forever, and greed is what ultimately kills him. And that weird twist of fate, which also is a running theme that we will talk about. And ultimately, you have Anton Chigurh, who is this supremely evil man, just borderline devil. What a villain! And the fact that he gets away with it is pure nihilism, which is a staple of McCarthy's narratives. Um, what do you guys think about Anton Chigurh?
I mean, before I just wanted to kind of just drop a few cents about Sheriff Bell as well.
Oh yeah, sorry. Go for it.
Just to kind of just add a little bit of texture to him. He's useless, right? As well. I mean, it kind of fades into the Chigurh conversation anyway. But he's useless. But he's useless because he's retiring because the times have changed, right? Like he doesn't recognize the world anymore. Like he thought he grew up in a different sort of set of values where shit like this never happened, and then all of a sudden he had to deal with this. Like he thought that, well, when there's crime, there's punishment, there's justice somewhere at the end of something, and then it turns out like, no, not necessarily. Like it's like the world has changed in his eyes. And then he has this conversation, I think, with his dad. He goes to visit the guy. I can't remember if it's his father or not, and they have this conversation about how he's going to be, because I heard your wife called and said, like, you'll be quitting, you're fixing to quit or something like this, right?
Yeah.
And they're talking. It's like, I don't recognize the world anymore. And he goes like, well, you're not the first to notice this. Like, I had this when I retired. It's just a cycle of what happens. Like, there's your values, and then the world just overtakes you as you live, because your perception of stuff. I mean, you evolve slower than the world does, and that's just a sad fact of life. And then the Anton Chigurh is basically the embodiment of this.
Yes.
In a way, because if you think about this, Sheriff Bell probably grew up with the idea of these sort of supreme evil villains would be these sort of, the black clad sort of Western villains who do have a like a weakness. They can be overcome. They can be you can triumph over evil, and then like what comes around goes around, and whatever. So and then all of a sudden it turns out not necessarily, because Shigur just gets away with shit. And then weirdly enough, I don't want to jump into like comparing to the film just yet, but I feel like in the book as well, because I read the book having watched the film multiple times before. What I found interesting about Shigur in the book is that he's more decidedly a human.
Yes.
He's a guy with a name and an address. He used to be in the war. He has a history. He probably has a mental illness of some description. He's a high
He's also very
function.
greedy.
Well, I'm not sure if he's greedy. He doesn't do this for money. Like he's a high functioning sociopath. Like, I mean, in the film you can see it a bit better, I think, because to me he's almost like Michael Myers. Like he's a force of nature who imprints on people, and then it will be just like, no, I just promised myself I'd kill them, so I have to. So because that's just he is essentially like Dexter. Like he's a sociopath, as in like he has a code and he has to abide by this code, as in like, well, I'm whoever lays eyes on me has to die. I don't care if it's a newborn, has to die. Like so to me this means like he's a sociopath, and like Carson Wells says this as himself, like like can you compare Mr. Shigur to something? Like, I don't know, what do you want to compare him to? The bubonic plague or something? It's just like, so Shigur is an interesting character in the book because he's kind of sort of humanized, even though I think Cormac McCarthy writes this line that you sometimes can convince yourself that he's human, and sometimes you'll just think like, how is he doing this? How is he still alive? And that he does have some kind of superpowers, like he's supernatural almost in nature. Yeah, so that's my 2 cents. Sorry.
Yeah, he's almost like Judge Holden from Blood Meridian, like this human figure that's almost, I don't know, like transcends his humanity. Beautiful stuff. How about you, Ewan? Thoughts on Shigur?
I see. I didn't have the benefit of reading the book before I saw the film, so a lot of to be fair, this is more of a benefit for my brain than anything. As I was reading the book, it's like, oh yeah, and you can just kind of see that film reel spinning in your head. It's like, this is what's happening here. I couldn't quite remember what was going on because it's been years since I last watched No Country for Old Men. But knowing the vague direction and seeing detail come into perspective was really nice. And without a doubt, the two of the best scenes in the book are the coin flip and further towards the end, I can't remember which character it is, but he flips the coin and he ends up killing her.
Carla Jean.
That's
so
the
Llewellyn's
Carla
wife.
Jean.
He tracks down Llewellyn's wife because he promised Llewellyn that he would just, well, if you give me the money, I'll let her live. He didn't give him the money. Well, I have to kill her. Like, I have the money, but I promised, so I kind of have to. So, yeah, which is something that just puts Sheriff Bell over the edge almost. Like, why would you do this? Like, because it's something that he cannot possibly comprehend. It's an incomprehensible evil that kind of tells him, like, I'm out, guys. Like, I have no idea what this world's made of anymore. I'm gonna go on my ranch, and then I'm gonna grow my horses, and then do whatever. I don't know, just whatever you do with horses. Do you raise them? Do you grow them? I don't know.
I don't think you grow them. That's more attributed to plants.
Maybe you plant the horse, like a little horse, in the ground, and you wait until it grows up.
Oh, like a horse tree.
Like a carrot.
Like a carrot. Carrots grow. No, they don't.
Carrots grow on trees. Like, there's a carrot tree, and they hang from.
Yeah, they sprout.
I've seen
an apple seed
like popsicles.
Like popsicles. I think that's the best way of describing Shigur. Actually, it's beyond description because it's just so beyond the pale of what a villain is. Usually, a villain has like a clear aim or something that we can relate to the world around them. Shigur is just a mental case, just firing shotguns everywhere and flipping coins. It's kind of a perfect villain where it's that fine line between having no real drive.
He's a weapon of mass destruction.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
He is like bubonic plague. Like, imagine being a general going like, I need to do this, I can kill the Germans, so like, let's unleash the plague. And it's just like, you have no control over what you're doing. Like, you can't just tell the virus to go like, yeah, go there. Like, no.
Don't come back though. Don't come
you
back.
Just you just open the can, and that's it. That's all you can do. Just like So I can hope he's not gonna come our direction because we're doomed.
Pretty much.
It's fantastic.
But he works for someone, right? He has this is
Yeah,
his
he
job.
does, yeah.
Like this is not well, I suppose it's a job because this is his hobby as well. Like, if you have a good hobby, you'll never work a day in your life.
He's basically that's his introduction in the book. In the movie, it kind of skips over that, but in the book, he literally just kind of goes like, "Let's see if I can escape from prison custody and then just get arrested and see
Like,
what
he
happens."
gets himself arrested and but the description in the beginning, what a scene, by the way.
No,
The
there's like
killing of the sheriff's deputy. Oh my goodness.
there's a passage where he kind of goes like, and he does this effortless move as if he had done it many times before, which he did. It's like, "Yeah, woo." It's just it's so simple, and it's like one sentence. You're in the first or second page of the book. You've already figured out who this man is,
There's a
and it
real
takes so little.
Yeah, there's a real beauty to the simplicity of his prose because, for the most part, it gets more detail across by being so simple because it just lets you fill in the blanks. And I think there's a real respectability to the risk that is, where it's like, I'm going to leave so much out that someone could just fill in the gaps. Here's the essentials. Here's a really basic way of writing, but in it's not basic, obviously. I mean, like the presentation is very simple, but it's so intense, and it's actually quite not a quick read, but I think it's shorter because it doesn't use punctuation. My brain doesn't tell me to stop when it's like a full stop, so it just keeps rolling and rolling and rolling, and eventually just bursts into this huge thrill. It's lovely. It's terrifying, but it's lovely.
There's an interesting quality about this. Well, the writing itself, because like the structure of the book as well. I mean, in terms of the characters, because I think we didn't mention this, right? That we do follow Shigur, we do follow Wells, we do follow the sheriff, and we do follow Llewellyn, right?
Yeah.
So we jump between these four in succession. So we followed Shigur, now we catch up with Llewellyn, then we catch up with Wells, then we catch up with the sheriff, and then new chapter starts. You have a little bit of thing that's italicized, which is the sheriff kind of from a perspective of time narrating the whole thing and just talking about how he no longer recognizes the world around him, right? But so this is something that I think you mentioned at the beginning when you're saying, "Oh well, the sheriff is the protagonist." I'm not sure he is, and I'm not sure anyone is a protagonist here.
It's a nice ensemble of just characters.
Like it almost feels like the money is the protagonist. Like it's like the bad penny that turns up. Like it's
like Bresson's l'argent. Just follow the object rather than people. In a way, yeah. It's very, very just. Oh, yeah. Cormac McCarthy manages to make you feel like the world is real, and he never loses himself, as we've talked about, just in exposition and unnecessary dialogue. And that's kind of one of the beauties about it. And we'll talk about it in the film as well. But with a brief exchange with me, you and Jakub, just about the beauty of the environmental storytelling, which is also present in the novel. You understand so much about the world that we're living in, or that the characters are living in, just by the way things are described and presented. And you have the opening drug deal that Llewellyn just stumbles across, sorry, that you never really know what happened there. And you just get these small descriptions of like a body here, the gun, there's like a car door that's been blown off with shells inside of it, and you can piece it together. It's like a puzzle. You can retroactively think, okay, maybe this guy shot the other one, something went wrong. But it's the fact that you never have Llewellyn just thinking to himself, oh, it seems like something went wrong here, or anything like that. Beautiful.
You get little bits of it when sheriff explains shit to his deputy, who is a little bit slow.
Just a little bit.
But he's a bit slow because I think he's a rookie as well. So he has to, because he's gonna be retiring. So okay, this rookie's gonna just take his mantle.
Blood.
So so he has to kind of teach him.
Promising.
So he has to teach him the ways. But like we had this conversation about The Thing, right?
Exactly.
Where patreon.com/uncutgemspod. Go and listen. It's for free, by the way. So anyway,
take advantage.
But see, the interesting difference is this is something that Ewan just mentioned as well. When you think that McCarthy wants you to fill in the blanks, but McCarthy doesn't like. Okay, the thing, for instance, just to draw a comparison, the thing does not allows your mind to roam and fill in the blanks and build a world around the film or around the story as well, right? Where McCarthy doesn't care about exposition. He wants you to fill in the blanks if you wish, but you don't have to. But if you wish to do this, like you don't have this idea. It's like I want to know what this cartel's all about. Like no, you don't. Like all you fill the blanks for is to kind of just have more context for what's happening right now. So there's no the book is at the same time, it's going to sound weird. At the same time, it's wide in scope and extremely localized. Because all you care about is what like Llewellyn's is doing and what's happening to him, or how I don't know, he's dealing with a transponder, or how he's traveling to Mexico. And then, by the way, not only does McCarthy wants you to fill in the blanks in these little things, he denies you certain scenes. Like all of a sudden he will cut off, and then you have to fill in the blanks of what happened to Llewellyn when Sheriff stumbles across a scene where Llewellyn was, right? For instance, which is also spoiler alert. Unceremoniously, you never read the description of Llewellyn's death. It's hard cut. New chapter, and then just like Sheriff just goes in. Oh, there's this shootout somewhere in a motel, and then you piece it together. That's Llewellyn that got killed.
I think that's one of the key themes for me, just of the story in general. It's the idea of fate and destiny, and free will / free choice.
It's a coin flip.
Is it? That's the beauty of it. That's the beauty of it. You have the iconic scene, and it was made iconic in the movie, but it's also present in the book, of the coin flip. Anton Chigurh, which is probably going to be the clip that I put in front of this, but Anton Chigurh.
Oh, please make the clip when Llewellyn's sitting on the sofa and goes like, "Where have you been? Where have you gotten this gun? At the getting place? If you run your mouth like this, I'll have to take you in the back and screw you. Big talk."
Carla Jean.
Such a sass.
man, she got a mouth on her. Love it. But yeah, the coin toss scene. It's one of those moments that you could have easily cut from the novel. Would it change anything? Actually, yeah. It's a seemingly pointless sequence, but it builds the character of Chigurh, and it builds the theme of the story, in my opinion, because in that scene, there's this underlying tension. Is Chigurh going to kill this man? Yes or no? Well, apparently, is leaving that choice to fate, to the coin flip, to the coin toss, just letting the coin call it. Heads, tails, call it. And your choice is going to dictate whether you live or die. But is it really a choice in that case? Not really, because it's a coin toss. You can get lost in this toss of like, is it Chigurh? Like, at the end of the day, just to be just straightforward.
It's not Harvey Two-Face then that he has a coin with two heads, right?
That's the secret. It's always like, just say heads and you'll be safe. But that's kind of how I see it. Is that Chigurh does represent just evil and whatever you want, but he is the one who chooses to do these evil things. Just like it's Llewellyn that chooses to get all of that crap on him because he picks up the drug money. He saw the briefcase, he saw there was money inside, and he could have just said, nope. There's like 15 dead bodies over this, like $2 million, whatever. I'm not picking it up. And if he just went away, nothing would have happened. We wouldn't have a story. But he chose to pick it up. He makes other choices in the story. And everyone is in control of their lives in small instances, but there's also just actual proper fate that just fucks them over big time, which happens, like you mentioned, to Llewellyn. He manages to escape from Chigurh, one of very, very few men.
The cartel gets him.
And the cartel get like these stupid dumbass kids from the cartel just kind of get him, and he's open, he's ready for like, yeah, okay, fine, just I'll give you the money and whatever. And they're like, ah, no, whatever, just kill him. Still, like it's anticlimactic. It's disappointing, and that's the point. That's the point.
That's
And
what
I think
life is.
that's what life is. That's what life is. Life is choices that we actively make, and also the inability of escaping just the random chance of fate. How do you guys feel about this? I know it's not an easy thing to discuss, but still, I'm curious to know your thoughts. Just cut your brain, just go crazy.
No, I don't think they are. No, that's my knee-jerk reaction. They're not in control. Mainly because they make such not odd decisions, but they're making very frenetic and panicked decisions, and that's not someone that's in control. That's someone that's kind of spiraling because they don't know how to get out. I think had they been in control, it would be more of a all right. Let's settle down. Let's think this through. But none of these characters are thinking anything through. Maybe apart from Shigura, but even then, it doesn't feel like he's choosing what to do because he's essentially guided by a coin flip. But as far as the other characters go, they're just reacting and being very emotive with their decisions rather than thoughtful. It is sort of a level of fate. I don't know how huge, like, I don't know if it's definitively this is fate for these characters, they have no choice at all. But I do think the actions that they have throughout are essentially not their choice. They're panicked choices that aren't really theirs.
I mean,
It's a bit like my life. Kind of. Oh, what are we doing here? All right, take that job. Why not? We shouldn't have done that.
well,
And then it's just backtracking forever.
to me, there's a bit of both in here, as in, well, you could chart it like two extremes. Like neither you have no control over anything, and it's just like, it's stuff happens, and then all you can do is react to stuff, but then you reacting to stuff just triggers another sort of chain of events over which you have no control, and it's just gonna go back to you, and then you'll have to react again, because with your decision making, and then the illusion of control that you may have over your existence. The other extreme would be that's just, well, everything's kind of predetermined, and you're just, well, or you can, well, you have the control over what's happening. So when you make a decision, then that kind of just universe just aligns to what your thought process is. And I kind of see this as kind of somewhere in the middle, veering towards the chaos and being in control. And my analogy for this is kind of when you drive a car on the motorway.
Mm-hmm.
What you have a modicum of control over what's happening, because you have a control over your vehicle. You know how fast you decide how fast you're going. You decide when you slow down. You have to react to stuff, and you have measures to communicate with the world around you, which is your horn and your indicators. That's pretty much what it is. But other than that, if a truck overturns in front of you, game over. Right? So there are certain things.
Like that.
So there are things you have no control over. And then Shigur is basically a guy who, like, I don't know. Imagine this: like, you're driving down a motorway, and someone's behaving like an asshole in front of you. So you give him the horn, and then he imprints on you, and then he decides he's going to run you off the road. Because why not? Like, he's having a bad day and whatever. This is Shigur. This is a guy who's just imprinted on you, and then he for some reason or another, he's not going to work anymore. His mission in life is to kill you.
I thought it was the Russell Crowe movie Unhinged.
Pretty much, yes. the same deal. Like, the villain is a force of nature in here, and then to me, this is the coin flip almost is because in the book and in the film, you can imagine that, okay, once you see Shigur in interacting with someone, like he interacts with a clerk, and this is the coin flip scene, or he interacts with Carla Jean, or interacts with Carson Wells.
Mm-hmm.
You can imagine that, okay, only one person is leaving this room, right? And with the clerk, you can actually see that there's he's actively trying to pick a fight with him so that he has an excuse to kill him, and the guy is just refusing to do this because he's just so polite. But then so in your head, you're just thinking to yourself, okay, well, this guy is predictable to me because he's a villain, so he's going to kill this guy because he's been killing everyone he meets. And then you introduce this element of chaos. I mean, not chaos. You introduce this element of uncertainty because now you have a 50-50 split of what's going to happen because he asks you to call a coin flip, right? And then he, as it turns out, he actually honors what the universe determines to be the right path to be taken. So it's an interesting sort of, I think, mix of you being in control and not being, and being guided by the sort of the relentless waves of the ocean of the universe. I don't know.
Beautifully put. Beautifully put.
I'm not sure this is beautiful, but yeah, that just.
It's I think it's very clear, and I agree. I think this is a good point to transition into the movie. Let's just get it over with and just move on. Released in 2007, directed and written by Joel and Ethan Coen, No Country for Old Men ended up being a massive success after its premiere at the Cannes Film Festival. It won 4 of the major Oscars: Best Direction, Best Film, Best Screenplay, and Best Supporting or Lead Actor. What was it?
Supporting. Yeah.
Supporting. For Javier Bardem as Anton Chigurh, and the film also stars our boy Tommy Lee Jones and Josh Brolin, as well as,
Did you call him a Brolin?
Josh Brolin. He's a bro. He's a Brolin. Brolin. Josh Brolin, and Woody Harrelson and Kelly MacDonald,
I think it's
as
Brolin.
well as in
I don't
Carlo.
know. I'm not sure.
Just
He's such a bro.
bro.
Who's playing Carla Jean, by the way? I can't remember.
Kelly
now.
MacDonald, from Trainspotting fame. And other things.
Well, other thing, really. Well,
She's in that new. Isn't she in that new Operation Mincemeat, whatever it's called?
yeah, she is. Yeah. Oh, of
It's
course
that
she
film
is.
that I was thinking to myself, should I go and see it? It's probably it's a bad
That film's
idea.
like jury service for vaguely entertaining British actors.
It's like the best film of 2009. Basically, to come from Britain. But anyway, Country for Old Men. My history, like I love this film. Just to be very straightforward, just love this film. I think it's a brilliant adaptation. I remember watching it on a train ride to my grandparents. It was just like 2.5 hour long. I was like, let's watch No Country for Old Men. And it was only 1 year after reading the book. So, I was like, I'm of age. I'm 14 now. I can read it. I was like, oh man, what a film.
It's such a weird place. I'm of age. I'm 14.
I'll wait for the film. But I'm super curious to know what you guys think. How about you, Ewan? What are your thoughts on the film of No Country for Old Men?
I haven't watched this film. I haven't watched this.
Watch this film. Bye.
No, the last time I watched it was the start of uni, which was
Oh.
4 years ago now. Jesus. And it was one of the first films I ever reviewed, and it was a terrible review, so I've deleted it.
No.
But no, that's heal and grow. So I rewatched it a couple of days ago. It's fantastic. It's such a good film. Who would have thought that 10 years later they'd go on to write Suburbicon? But we all have our fall from grace. No,
Stay away from Suburbicon.
Oh, do you like that film?
Mind it. I mean,
all right, I've touched
Tim
a nerve
Burton
with
film
everyone.
that Tim Burton never made. Come on.
Yeah, it is. That is Tim Burton all over, isn't it?
Should have been Tim Burton and not one George Clooney.
Ugh.
George Clooney,
Ugh.
I don't know.
He's never
we're not
directed
here
a
to talk
good
about
film.
George or about the Clune, but
The Clune.
Cloonster.
Clune-meister.
No, we've lost him. We've lost Ewan.
So, No Country for Old Men. Yeah, I really enjoy this film. I really like it quite a lot. It's kind of like when you talk to people about this film, you can kind of see them if they really like films, like if they're like a real film fan, whatever the fuck that means. They turn their nose up at this film because it's like that line where Fight Club falls, where it's like this is a really strong adaptation of a very good book, but it's also very popular with normal people. And it's that line between the two of them that people get cold feet about.
Oh, you mean snobs are
The
are like,
Film Bro franchise movie, of course. Stuff like The
so is
Dark
that
Knight,
I'm
Fight
not supposed to
Club.
like it because it's like I have to.
Yes, but if it's popular and well made, then you're not allowed to like it.
Oh, they can suck my dick.
That's actually a true point. Like I know
Yeah.
people like that.
Well, that's the thing. It's like you don't hear many people talk about No Country for Old Men if they're really into like the '60s French New Wave cinema. They're not going to say like, "Oh, No Country for Old Men, it's one of the greatest films of the 2000s." When argue it
Have
probably
you
is.
heard about Vladimir and Rosa? Yes, I heard.
Oh, I may have watched No Country for Old Men, but I do prefer Last Year at Marienbad. God,
Oh, just-
wankers.
That's me.
Actually, to be fair, as I said that, I thought I actually
these are
do
just-
prefer Last
These
Year
are
at
these assholes
Marienbad.
who just like, oh, like your colleague at work would be like, you're into films. What should I what should I watch this weekend? You should probably watch some early Buñuel. I'm like, Bob from accounting is asking you what he should watch. Like Top Gun Maverick is what he should watch.
But to turn that on its head, this is the perfect film to recommend to someone that doesn't really know much about films but wants to get into it, because it's fantastic. It's that fine line that very few films have, but at the same time so many do, where it's both really entertaining and popcorn movie. And it's the artistic level to it and also the popularity to it kind of weigh each other out. It's quite nice where it's just so good. It's so good. It returning to this after so many years was kind of like I appreciated it a lot more, because when I first watched it, I just thought, it's pretty good. And then going back to it was just fantastic. It really was, and I think it's not my favorite Coen film, but it's definitely in like that top band now.
What is your favorite Coen then?
My knee-jerk reaction there was to say Fargo. I think Fargo. Yeah, I'll go with Fargo because it's either that or A Serious Man. I feel like I'll be beaten to death with a lead pipe
So good.
if I say Serious Man, because I once said, "Oh, my favorite Coen Brothers film is A Serious Man." I got a dirty look. So,
Mine is actually Inside Llewyn Davis.
it's
Inside
beautiful.
Llewyn Davis is up there for me.
It's, but yeah, no, I was just briefly sorry, Jakub, but just briefly I wanted to say, I have a theory about like I know people who kind of think about like that in that way about No Country for Old Men, where it's so popular. Where if you kind of say, "Oh, I love No Country for Old Men," duh, well, like of course, but like, what's a real movie that you love from that time?
Yeah.
And usually the cinephile reply should be, "There Will Be Blood," because that's the movie that was robbed at the Oscars. And to be fair, like, it would be hard for me to pick because I've only seen it once, but it had such a massive impact on me. There Will Be Blood, but I still think that No Country for Old Men.
I
It's
mean, you're
kind of
allowed to like both,
No.
Yeah.
You've got to pick a
Oh, do
lane.
we have
You
to
either
pick a
pick the No
team?
Country for Old Men Harry Potter Hot Fuzz lane, or you're in the There Will Be Blood Postal Eastern Promises lane. Pick a lane, stick to it.
Oh, it's not even a pick a lane. It's like choosing like your political party alliance. It's like
pretty much.
if I choose No Country for Old Men, I have to sign up to being like, oh, now I'm okay. I'm progressive, but I hate the immigrants as well. Okay.
Yeah, it's
very odd.
it's very restrictive.
So you have to just sign up the whole basket of opinions.
Yeah, and honestly, I hate that line of thinking. I think it's toxic as all hell from
yeah.
a certain strand of cinephiles. But I'm kind of surprised that this is as big as it is. And my theory is that it's so beloved exclusively, and we'll get to it, but I think it's exclusively for Javier Bardem as Anton Chigurh.
Oh
People
Oh
love
no!
for mainstream
Llewellyn,
audiences.
come on!
The Josh Brolin,
The brooding Josh.
that sweet stash. But I think that's kind of it. That's my idea. We'll get more into it later on, but just I'm gonna throw it right here. Jakub, your thoughts on this movie? Your history, even if you have history.
My
with it.
history. Oh, I've seen this multiple times, and then
Did you watch it in the cinema?
No, I
Oh.
didn't. I didn't see it in the cinema. I caught it because I was I don't know 2007 Christmas. I would probably be. I can't remember what I was doing. I was knee deep in trying to kind of finish my masters. I think I don't know. So I was busy.
No time for movies.
Well, there was a time it was touch and go, because there's exams and stuff, and then your thesis and your research. Oh, it's just shit happens. Just I
Yeah.
don't know.
We had the same in year
Long
2
story.
when I was 7. Exams and stuff,
Long story. Long
Difficult.
story. But anyway, so as you were guys talking, I just quickly pulled up my older review. I mean, the one review I have of it on Letterboxd from 2015, which I don't think it's the last time I saw it, because I sometimes watch things I forget to log them. So I don't know.
Shake
But
my head.
so
If you're not committed to Letterboxd, get off of it.
It's a diary, damn it.
So okay, so what should I do with the 70 films I have, like in a Word document that I'm just thinking I should
Yeah,
probably just
that's-
put them on Letterboxd somehow.
I'm
70.
old and
Ooh.
I don't like
70.
computers, so I handwrite what I've not written yet. So I've got paper all over my desk,
See, there you go.
just of
See,
what I need to
it's
write
just
up.
I don't know. Yeah, so yeah, I really, I mean, it's a 5 stars with a heart,
Yay.
in my estimation, as I use the way I use Letterboxd is like 5.5 out of 5, because I don't use the heart for anything else than 5-star films that are my personal favorites, and it kind of is like one of, I think between Fargo, this, and Inside Llewyn Davis, almost Llewellyn. uh these three are kind of just vying for the top spot in my sort of Joel and Ethan Coen filmography. But I absolutely adore this movie, and then I watched it this morning, and it's such like it's such an easy film to watch. Oh my goodness, it's like the book, and just to kind of put this in perspective, it's incredibly faithful. There's
Yeah.
maybe a few things that are just cut down of this, probably for continuity as well. I mean, or maybe just to keep the runtime at exactly almost 2 hours, because I have a feeling that this may have been a studio decision that this needs to be a 2 hour film. So they got rid of this whole, in my opinion, one of the most interesting scenes in the book, which is when he I think he almost takes a woman hostage.
Llewellyn.
Llewellyn takes a woman hostage, and they end up kind of just fraternizing a little bit, and they have this moment when they just share beers together, and that's completely excised from the book.
It's a nice moment of humanity that
Yeah.
leads to his death.
Well, yeah, exactly. Which is what kind of just brings him down. But that's anyway. So I love this film. I love how it's cast. I love how it's just, again, it's so immersive. It doesn't tell you anything. It just well. There's a few things I love about this. I'm not sure. We're probably going to get to some of these things anyway, because
We're gonna gush.
I do tend to ramble. Sorry. And then when Jack's not in the room, someone has to. So I'll say this. I like. I really love how Anton Chigurh is essentially Michael Myers in my head. That's he's just a force of nature, a sort of personification of evil that just roams through the land and just destroys everything it imprints upon. That's great. But another thing that really draws my attention, and it's a perfect choice for this story. It's almost like a match made in heaven for Joel and Ethan Coen to pick up this book and adapt it themselves. I think they adapted themselves. So I think Cormac McCarthy didn't have anything to do with the writing process. I think he
Nope.
probably gave them his blessing. But what the Coens do, in my estimation, always their biggest selling point is that they fetishize the setting. So if you watch
Fargo.
Miller's Fargo, if you watch Fargo, you're in Minnesota, North Dakota, right? If you watch Miller's Crossing, you're kind of in the sort of 1920s sort of Irish mob situation. If you watch Blood Simple, like you're sort of in the sort of Americana noir situation. Like
Through grit in the western landscape.
yeah, even like Inside Llewyn Davis, he will just, you're in New York in the 60s, and
Village.
they really relish this idea of putting a story in a setting, and in here you smell, you feel the heat of the Texas sun, you feel the gravel, the gravel under your boots, you smell the dead bodies in this when he inspects the cartel sort of drug exchange gone wrong. You know this very localized story takes place in a real place, and it kind of just imbues the story with this sort of tactile visual realism that's never undercut with anything like So now we need to just level with you, the viewer, and then tell you exactly what's happening, because you might not have a clue what's going on when Tommy Lee Jones goes like, there's some 9mm, so a few 45s and whatever, and just no one cares about this shit because everyone's. I think the filmmakers are assuming that the way they tell this story, they will just ensconce you in this world, and which is exactly what Cormac McCarthy does with the way he writes. Match Made in Heaven, one of the greatest films of the 21st century. I rest my
Mm.
case. Peace.
Just such an inherently visual film, which I love. I've said it on almost every episode now, but I like dialogue, but I don't gravitate towards it. And I love that there's so many stretches of this movie where there's not a single line of dialogue spoken, and it works so well. We've mentioned the way they shoot the discovery of the drug deal. It is the Norwegian camp of the thing. It's literally just shit went down here. What exactly we don't know, but you can kind of guess by looking at it and just seeing Llewellyn.
This is a feature waiting to happen, by the way. No Country for Old Men is a stealth remake of The Thing.
Hey.
Excuse me?
There's 1,000 words
I
there
see it.
easily.
I
It
see
writes
it.
itself. It writes itself. Um, but there's that moment. There's the way they kind of change around the only real encounter between Llewellyn and Shigur, where they have this cat and mouse chase. It's those parts are where the movie absolutely shines for me. It is intense, and it's intense not only for the visuals but the sound design does so much in filling in the gaps of what you don't see. And this is what I did. Unlike the other times, like I watched this on the TV, but with headphones turned almost to the max. This is
This is what's wrong, because you're half deaf.
Hmm?
that's why I scream a lot.
Do
That's
you
why I'm
have?
very loud.
Do you hear this constant in your head?
Of course, that's the demons speaking to me.
Of course.
They keep me awake.
I get that
I,
in my left ear.
that's oh jeez. No.
Ringing, not demons.
That's Pazuzu goes.
I've got the demon from Ghostbusters too. Oh,
But no, jokes aside, no. I thankfully I don't have tinnitus or anything. When I
looking
say
for
super
some.
to the max, it's like bearable. Like even right now, the volume is bearable. It's not too high.
Like
I've had a bit of
Nicolò
tinnitus.
earache Grasso.
um, but no, I was listening to the film and it sounds so good. There's so many parts, especially because the Coens, since it's such a visual film, they put such an emphasis on the sounds and and it plays into the characters themselves. Anton Chigurh, when he has to enter a room with someone that he wants to kill, first is going to scout the room that is in. Like when he gets to the motel, he's like, okay, let me enter multiple times through the door that let me enter multiple times in the room that I rented so that I know exactly the layout and where everyone could be in the room when I enter it. And then he just removes his shoes and tiptoes to the room that he has to enter. And that's just genius. It's so good. It's so good. It's just so simple choices that showcase the brilliance of the Coen Brothers. I think that I don't talk about them as often as I should, honestly, because every time I watch one of their movies, I tend to leave.
They're the unsung heroes of Hollywood.
Yeah, and I don't think it's a coincidence that they are good buddies with Sam Raimi, like another different but also still very important voice
Well, they produced A
from his
Simple Plan,
time.
didn't they? Right?
Maybe, and
think
a
so,
simple
yeah.
plan. A simple plan is basically a Coen Brothers movie. Like it's insane. Um,
It's
but
so
but
good.
so good, man, so good. But yeah, there's so much love for filmmaking on screen here, and it's a true testament to the movie that they managed to take the novel and adapt it almost beat for beat to such great effect. And I think one of the key reasons, of course, we can talk about if you wanted Roger Deakins, who does the cinematography, which is beautiful. So many awesome silhouettes. He loves the silhouettes and the golden hour and whatnot.
This is something I don't get, by the way. I'm sorry if I have to barge when people say, "Oh, I love Roger Deakins' cinematography." It's very Like it's not flashy. It's just very well lit, naturally lit sort of environment. Natural, not always naturally lit, but always looks like it's naturally lit.
Yes, yes.
So he
Even when
likes
they're
his contrasts, but it's not like, like I could recognize van Hoytema or like Wally Pfister or someone like this. You could recognize like Dean Cundy, for instance. This guy is very vanilla.
Roger Dickens.
Yes, he has
No.
flashy moments, but in terms of visuals, his style. I mean, it's like vanilla ice cream. Tastes great, but I don't know. Like when people say, "Oh, I love Deacon's cinematography," I would then love for them to just do a quiz of just show them 10 random stills from random films, and then see if they can spot Roger Deakins in there.
Yeah,
I
it's
could
like
pass. I could pass it.
But you're a
I'd absolutely
filmmaker,
feel
so you know.
it's the mentality of a lot of people probably know the name Roger Deakins, think that's my favorite cinematographer without knowing the name of any other
Because he's also
cinematographer.
like the sort of the hero story of like
Yeah.
nominated 179 times for the Oscar and only fucking got it for the I can't remember what
1917.
what did he get it
Was
for?
it?
No,
No,
that wasn't
no.
him.
Well, Blade
Blade
Runner.
Runner.
Jesus.
Yeah, yeah.
Wait, no. Did he get it for 1917 as well? Actually,
No,
no.
I don't think I don't think he was doing
Oscars
1970, right?
2020 cinematography.
He got it for
Roger Dickens. Yeah, yeah, yeah. He
Really?
won for 1917. Yeah, yeah,
Oh, really?
as well.
Okay, so once he just uncorked himself, he's like, yeah, now he's gonna get it every year.
Well, because he became. I think
he's
that's the
got
problem.
two. He got Blade Runner and 1917, so we're all correct.
He became too big for his own good. That's the problem.
No, he's
But
just
no, not for his own good, but kind of
he's
like
the popular sort of like when people think like like my favorite filmmaker is like Christopher Nolan, whatever. He's sort of like the go-to choice for film nerds on Twitter. I don't know, but
Yeah.
his work is great. I love his work with like Denis Villeneuve, for instance. He's a great cinematographer, but at the same time, I often fail to see how he's flashy, and then here he's not flashy. He allows the characters to kind of be put front and center. He's not like, I'm lighting this bitch.
I think that's the brilliance of his cinematography. Actually, is the fact, especially in this film, because if you take like Fargo is very stylish. You have like these wide shots of the snow and just these small characters walking through them. You have 1917, Skyfall, like his work with Sam Mendes in general is very solid. Um, well, what I love about this, it kind of ties back into the way that the Coens adapt the entire novel, is that Cormac McCarthy has a very raw, matter of fact, unglamorous way of presenting violence that's just incredibly upsetting to read in all of his books. And it's almost like this God's eye view. It's like that's that's what happens. There's like no slow motion, there's no glory and blood and guts. It's like
There's
people
no romance
die.
to it.
There's no romance to it. And I was noticing, I think it just came to me halfway through the movie. I was kind of like, there's a lot of just static shots in this film, or there's no real zooms or like split diopters, or like you say, just flashy visuals in general.
Or like handheld cinematography. It
No
doesn't have everything's
handheld,
on a tripod or on a dolly or maybe on what's it called?
like there's a steady cam. No,
Well,
but
Steadicam,
even then,
yes.
it's very like slow.
Yeah.
It's always like slow movements. Even during the chases, everything moves very slowly. It's a lot of wide shots
Crane,
or
that's what I wanted to say.
oh, the
Crane.
crane. There's no crane shots,
Yeah.
and that also ties with. I talked about the sound design. There's no music in this film. There's not an original score in the background ever that
Because
plays
life doesn't
throughout,
have a score.
because life doesn't have a score,
Well,
and
depends who
that's
you ask, but like if you always
well,
always wear headphones, it'll be like I'm on a highway.
that's how you get into a car accident. Um, but that's and
Hit me,
on a highway to
baby.
hell.
My
It's a very
lower
accurate
back
choice.
is killing me. Anyway,
um, and that's and I love that about the cinematography in this film. I think there's of all the violent sequences in this movie, there's one instance of gore that properly shocked me the first time I watched it, and still kind of gets to me, especially that it's there, but it doesn't linger on it in any way. when Anton Chigurh barges into the motel room with the Mexicans. He shoots the silenced shotgun at an henchman who's about to pick up an Uzi, and the
Cuts off his
shotgun
arm.
shreds his arm off, and it's just dangling from the henchman's body. It's probably like 20 frames long. It's not even a second long, probably, that shot. But you just see this arm just kind of like flopping like spaghetti in the wind. And then Chigurh shoots him again, and he's dead. Just, again, matter of fact, but very, but just upsetting. Um, I
In the
don't
same
know.
scene, he has the sort of when he goes into the bathtub, and there's this guy in the bathtub, and is like, no, well, and then he just looks at him, takes the curtain, puts it down, just blasts him off.
Because Anton Chigurh, he's a violent man, but he's not a dirty man. He wants to keep himself clean. If he kills someone and there's blood on the floor, he's just gonna, lift up his
Lifts his
up
leg
his
and it
lift
continues
his
on the
leg up.
phone with
You know,
Carla
if I
Jean's
walk
mom.
if I walk in a motel room, I'm just gonna remove my socks because they're dirty after a while. It
No, it
happens.
was because it was they were all covered in blood, right?
Yep.
Like
Yeah.
when he kills Carla Jean, he just like comes out of the house and he looks at his shoes
It's like,
to
yep,
see if they're not like blood stained.
no
What a great
spots.
guy!
It's fine. It's incredible. It's downright incredible, and I think maybe the best performance by Javier Bardem. Um, Talk about a transcendent role. Even though people make fun of his hairdo, it's like, okay, fine, ha ha ha. Yes, he looks kind of weird when you see him.
It's
the first-
become
1980. What did
so-
you expect?
Yeah, it's become so synonymous with the character as
He's
well.
also not very
Like-
social either, so it's not like, oh, I'm gonna go and pick up chicks after I'm done killing, right? Like he's very sort of focused and obsessed.
Yeah.
It's just like, I don't care, like just
He looks like all the Bee Gees put together.
He doesn't.
filthy blob.
Oh, jeez.
He doesn't change his clothes either. He always wears black.
Mhm.
Yeah. Well, to be fair, have you ever seen me not wear this blazer?
There you go.
It's attached to me. It's actually sewn in.
Oh man, it's the second skin.
Yeah, this is actually skin.
Do you shower in it or?
Yeah, I do actually. Yeah,
Nice.
I had a shower earlier. I've got a nice little shower coat for it just to make sure the fabric doesn't get wet.
Nice.
As you should. Um,
No, but in general, just on the cinematography, just wanted to quickly add, like there's a way Deakins and the Coens kind of just guide the camera work so that some films look like they're period pieces, like I don't know, like Zodiac looks like a 2005 film about the 70s,
mhm,
right?
mhm.
Like there are films like American Hustle, for instance. That's another
Oh.
one that's just like it looks like there are people in costumes, right? Like it's like, or like a Casino. It's just there are people in costumes. It's a period piece. The Coens make movies that you could convince yourself that they made in 1980. It kind of looks like it's a movie that was just happened to be made in 1980. It's just like when they make, I don't know, Miller's Crossing. Like, well, I didn't know they had color film stuck in the 20s. So the kind of I don't know. It's so natural and spot on. It just looks like a movie made in the 80s. It's so great.
Yes, it's actually kind of funny. Like, it took me a while. It wasn't in the first read. Like, even having read the book, but just this never actually feels to me like a 1980 story. And even in the movie, it's one of those details that you can easily miss when watching it because it only kind of comes up twice, which is when they talk about the Vietnam War, where you kind of go,
Oh,
well,
when they
duh.
say
Or like
it's when they talk about cars.
when they talk about cars as
When they
well.
say, "Oh, it's a 1979 Buick," oh, it looks like a 1-year-old or something. Like it's all just like you can piece it together when this thing takes place based on
Or
like
when
these.
Carla Jean's mom dies as well, and you see like the tombstone says 1980. That's
Mhm.
that's the only one where it just actually grounds it in a year, because
Mhm.
otherwise, like I want to say when I first watched it, even though I'd read the book, it still felt timeless, which I appreciate. Which
I
also
don't think
plays
it's
which
timeless.
is
It's set in the 80s and it feels like it's an 80s film for me. I don't know if it's timeless, but
I would say it feels even more maybe like a 70s, like a
but
late
yeah,
70s.
but it's relevant to the story when it takes place, because it has to take place after like the world's still reeling from World War II, and now we have
The Vietnam War.
Vietnam War is just about wrapped up, and not in a satisfying way for America. The world's almost just traversing from crisis to crisis. The AIDS epidemic's on the rise, like the civil rights movements just coming in, going. The world's rapidly changing, and in a way that many people just fail to keep in touch with, keep pace with. So it's
Times are
important,
changing.
right?
The times they are changing, as one Bob Dylan sang. And it's true, and that's like it ties with the title of the movie, which also is a reference to a poem. I forgot the name of the poem.
Is it No Country for Old Men?
Sailing to Byzantium by Yeats.
William
W.B.
Butler?
Yeats, which opens with the line, "That is no country for old men." That's
I
what
get
it's
it. A
referencing.
reference.
There do be references. I haven't read the whole poem because I'm lazy.
A tie-in, as Marvel would call it.
Yeah.
There should be a sequel with another Yeats poem as a Yeats.
Is it Yates or Yeats?
Yeats. I think I said this another time. I don't remember
Yeats.
which podcast. I was like, Yeats. Yeats. But yes, that's one of the. Tommy Lee Jones as well is beautifully hard to break into see in this film. He's so powerless. He just stumbles from crime scene to crime scene, unable to do anything. And I kind of like how the Coens visualize him almost as a Yates. I love how
William Butler Yeats.
Sorry.
she sounds drunk.
William Butler Yeats.
When you slow it down, she sounds like she's just had like 5 tequilas. Just a little bit slurred.
Oh, I forgot to drink my bourbon. It's all right. I can have
Save it for later.
little tipple.
I'm sorry, I'm such a force of chaos in here. Like when I
You're the
listen to
Anton
you,
Sugar of the podcast.
when I listen to you guys talk, it's kind of like Nicolò says things, and then Ewan says things, and then Nicolò says things, and then and all of a sudden I'm here. It's kind of like William Butler Yeats. Fuck that.
William Butler Yeats. Anyway, I lost my train of thought. Wait. No, yes, the Tommy Lee Jones. Just poor man. What a performance! It's almost like a spiritual sequel to Melquiades Estrada's Free Burials movie. Just this very sad, lonely sheriff.
Could be actually, yeah.
It's just I think he is a terrific choice. I don't even think you could have gotten another actor for that role. For any of those roles, honestly, because they've become just one and the same with the movie, with the
Ryan
book,
Gosling. Sorry.
as well as
Llewellyn.
Anton Chigurh.
No, it's probably as Llewellyn he could probably pull this off, because he was supposed to be he wasn't supposed to be older. He was supposed to be in like his late 20s, early 30s, I think, right? But he's supposed to be this sort of grizzled man. He's supposed to be a guy who's seen shit, because he did 2 tours in Vietnam, so he's probably killed quite a lot of people.
Yeah, and I think the fact that they're all like, even at the time, Javier Bardem wasn't that popular. Josh Brolin wasn't that popular, even though he did like Goonies, and then he had like this hot streak with the Death Proof duology. Like, what's the Planet Terror? He was in Planet Terror. He did W right after. Like, he was in a bunch of movies, of course, but none of them, outside of Tommy Lee Jones, were like super recognizable stars as they are today. And so I think that's also kind of powerful about this film, especially watching it back when it came out or close to it. It's that it feels believable, and the Coens have this quality of just finding the weirdest actors for the side characters. There's so many people that just pop up for one single scene, and yet they have the most distinct faces. It's crazy.
You got
I think,
Woody
like,
Harrelson as Carson Wells.
Woody Harrelson, yes, an inspired choice, I have to say, and he's in the movie for like 2 scenes.
Can you
3
validate my ticket? That's a joke? Sorry.
He has a shit-eating grin throughout the entire movie.
He's
I love
such
it.
an asshole. I mean,
He's a massive asshole.
He's like Matthew McConaughey and Bill Murray rolled into one person.
Yeah, pretty much. And yeah, just a great film. Just a great film. And the last thing I really want to talk about is the ending, because we haven't properly gotten into it. We've mentioned it multiple times. Of just how do you guys feel about the ending of this story? Llewellyn dying in a very anticlimactic way. The
You barely
sheriff,
see him. Like he just,
very she, she,
it's like
she's just
it's
see a
a guy
corpse.
in a shed that looks like Llewellyn's. I don't know. Anyway,
I find it funny because that's what I was talking about, where he said like, I'm surprised this movie is as beloved as it is in the mainstream, and I think it's exclusively because of Sugar's violent acts.
it's
Because if you read like,
it's the lore, like the air gun. And it's like, oh, I wonder where he got it. And I'm like, really?
it's like no one gives a shit.
It's just an element of it's just like I carry this around because it leaves no trace. There's no bullets. It just goes pop in and out, and it's just a cleanup job on this must be just anyway.
Yeah. But that's and I remember watching the movie knowing the ending, and it was still kind of shocking. And I know I've talked to people, to good friends of mine, that like the movie, but the ending, there's no big shootout. I don't really get it. Nothing really happens. That's a common denominator.
It's kind of like read the book. There nothing really happens in the ending either.
That was it for me. That was kind of like, it's in the book as well. They were like, yeah, but they could have changed it for the movie. But that's the point, and that's also why, again, like I think Fight
Based on
Club
the
is a great
comic.
comparison. Some people just don't get it. It can sound like an elitist comment to make, but sometimes it's just true. Some people just don't get what a movie was going for, and I find it troubling that for some of them, this
How
is supposed to be like
how
America,
couldn't,
fuck yeah.
how couldn't you get it based on the entire ending? Like Carla Jean bites the dust. You don't even see it, and then he exits the house. He goes in the car and he gets T-boned, and you don't even see it. Like in a T-bone scene, you'd probably just see like from like you'd see the profile of Anton Chigurh, and you'd see the car just going into the camera.
Yeah,
No, it goes from the other direction. Like it's a
it's the
complete
other.
surprise. It's just like surprise, motherfucker! The universe has intervened. Chance this coin flip that motherfucker. Sorry,
And even then, he still gets away.
and he's
But
still
yeah, how
it's like, or there's a bone sticking out from your arm. It's like I can see that. So can I borrow your shirt?
I can
Here's
feel
$100.
it. Yeah, but just how do you guys feel about the ending? At least I know that you both get it.
Yeah, I have no qualms with it. I don't think it's bad. I think it's quite good. I think it's like you said there, because I've had the same conversation with people where it's like, oh yeah, it was very good. Ooh, but the ending though, it's like if you're balancing your whole opinion of the film just on the ending, how
Well, some
it's
endings are better than others. Some endings are like
yeah.
fuck me.
But it's not even a bad ending though. It's just people being arsey. that's the simplicity of it. It's people don't get it. I don't get it, but at least I enjoy the ending. It's better to be a wise fool than a foolish tit.
I mean, there are endings that I don't know.
What a quote!
I mean, there was something
classic.
something would have to happen for me to actually just take the film, take any experience down completely to zero based on just the ending. Like imagine like making love, and you're just it's this steamy sort of time, and you're just you're into it, and everyone's just having a good time, and someone shits the bed. This ruined.
Ending's ruined.
This is how the ending ruins the journey. No one
I've
shits
said
the
it
bed in here.
before. There's just one movie that did that for me, and it was High Tension. Alexander Aja. It's the only one.
I suppose like if they randomly just rolled into this and it's all a dream. Like Llewellyn just wakes up in the just scorched sun, just fell asleep while hunting that deer in the beginning.
Even worse, Shiguro wakes up. He's got normal hair. He wakes up next to his wife. He's like, "Oh goodness me, I've had a horrible night."
Like, oh, I don't know, like in
He's
Dressed
actually
to
an
Kill, he
insurance
just
salesman.
like wakes up and everyone's like, no, honey, and then it goes like, no, he has these convulsions, and everyone's just like, nurse, fucking give him some.
I'm glad the Coens didn't Stephen King it, by which I mean make a really great 90%, and the last 10% is just so over the top. It's like rein it in, bring it down, pack it in.
I have a feeling that just in general, I think Cormac McCarthy is not a gardener; he's a planner. Or
Yes.
Yeah.
I think,
Yes.
not gardener. Well, there's gardener and there's pantser as well. Like this, the sort of like flying by the seat of your pants. Like this is what Stephen King does. He
Oh,
goes like,
yeah.
"I'm writing. I'm in with these characters. I don't know where they're gonna go. I'm so happy that they're going there." And it's just like, I'm 800 pages in. I should probably wrap this up. Whew,
Yeah.
how do we do this? A big turtle and an orgy. How about that?
Oh,
Easy.
you love to see it. Wait,
Oh,
back of the
ayo.
net. No, you're right. He is a planner because I think the best of plans come together when people can have their own interpretations, not of it, but of the characters, their actions, their motivations. And I think McCarthy lets it a little bit looser than some other authors
I
would
think he
do.
plans though. He
Oh
still
yeah,
plans.
no, that's the point. Like he
He
plans
knows.
out such a grand narrative, but
Yeah.
he lets people fill in the gaps.
Or maybe at some point he realizes like Llewellyn's gonna die. Like I just need to figure out when. Or
Yeah,
or
it's
like
the less
Sugar's
is
gonna
more
live. Like this
mentality.
is gonna be the big selling point. Is like Sugar's gonna walk away from this.
I don't know about the
Or
actual like No Country for Old Men. I didn't find any info about it, but maybe some of the listeners can or have. But just in general, I was reading about McCarthy's writing style, and it takes years to write a novel. Not just writing it, but just fine tuning it. He's
it's
almost obsessively
like George R. R.
editing.
Martin.
Yes, he's just that's why he's written only like 11, 12 books since this 1972, 1973, something like that.
Like Thomas
It's
Pynchon.
yes, like Thomas Pynchon, or like we've also talked about Thomas Harris,
I think
Silence of the
Thomas
Lambs. Like
Harris was bullied into writing books.
he hated writing
He was
basically,
like, I hate doing this. I don't want to write this book.
but I also need to
Oh,
eat.
you have to. This is great. No.
He just retcons himself out. But that's how you. But that's also part of the genius and brilliance of reading something like this, because we talked about just how tight it is, and it's mwah. That's the beauty of it. Ultimately, I think it's a tight story in the book, and the Coens love subversive, unconventional stories, and it's just a match made in heaven. You know, like they've made a career making subversive genre films. And so when they get a modern western slash kind of neo noir, if you want, I don't know. Some people consider it also neo noir. I don't. It's a new western only. But you take it with all those genre conventions and archetypes, and you just twist them on their head, including a very very bleak ending that purposefully doesn't give you the exciting action climax that you want. Just yeah, brilliant.
Mhm.
I think this is time for the last question. What is best in the end? Which one do you prefer? The book or the film of No Country for Old Men? Jakub, your final thoughts.
You don't. It's like Sophie's Choice. Like no, don't
You
make me choose.
have to pick. It's like we talked about the voting. It can only be left leaning or right
You
leaning.
know, I can't pick. I don't know. They're both amazing. I would say, screw it. I'm gonna say like the film is great, but the book's next level for me. So
Nice.
yeah, it's like it's a. I mean, but then again, the film, I don't know. It's like it's a turkey breast. You know what it is? It's a turkey breast. It's so lean, just pure muscle, just pure fiber of muscle. Just that's all it is. No fat in there. It's
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 very
very
healthy.
it's very nutritious, very healthy, and if you cook it right, it's very delicious. But your window for making it right is very, very narrow. It's like raw, 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 perfect, fucked.
You okay?
Like this is how you cook turkey. Like if you it's like raw, 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 raw. 30 seconds, take it out of the oven, or else it's fucked. It's just yeah. So the Coens cooked the perfect turkey. We can learn how to cook a perfect turkey, but Cormac McCarthy is the god who made the turkey. So
I think they should put that on the poster. No Country for Old Men, a perfect turkey.
Perfect turkey.
it's a perfect.
That's how you
turkey.
get butts in the seats.
Because it's also this sort of like, how do you cook the legs so that the breasts doesn't dry? It's it's a whole science. Anyway, over to you guys. I loved both.
How about you, Ewan? Are we going to make an actual choice here, or does it have to be down to a coin toss? Coin toss.
You know me. I live life in the fast lane, by which I mean I make decisions and don't think about the consequences of them. So I'm going to say film before I change my mind.
So you
Just
never get off the
film,
motorway
I'll do.
because you can't really get off the motorway when you're in the fast lane.
I can't drive as well, so that probably throws a spanner in the
established you hit a
works,
pigeon,
or the
anyway.
engine, or whatever cars have. I film better because reading hurt brain. Nah, I think a lot of it comes down to a lot of it.
Because reading suck ball.
My
Reading is for
brain
nerds.
hurts. No, I think a lot of it comes down to something I can't even change, which is the fact that I experienced the film before the book. And when I read the book, I was thinking, oh yeah, this is the bit where Joaquin Phoenix, where Javier Bardem does this, or Josh Brolin does that. And it's not that the writing isn't amazing in the book. It's the fact that now I know what it looks like visualized, and it just elevates ever so slightly, not because of the visuals, but because of how such a simplicity can actually appear, how it can be adapted, and how it can interpret in new ways. And I think it actually, yeah, probably the book that's better then, because that just means it's
See?
interpretations.
Telling you.
Yeah, the book's better. Fine.
I mean,
You've convinced me.
For me, the book is better because like I've seen the film multiple times before, and then actually taking up the book, I didn't actually like Llewellyn wasn't Josh Brolin, it was Llewellyn. Shigur wasn't Javier Bardem, it was someone else. So Cormac McCarthy
take their
just
own form.
commands, and he's really just reignited the bug for writing. So for me, so
Yeah.
like, yay Cormac, I need to write him a letter, or just I don't know. At this point, I'm inclined to adopt him. Just
Before it's too late, because
before it's too late,
he has
just
age.
adopt him and just put it in my basement.
He's 88. I think he needs a warmer room than a basement.
And if I'm not mistaken, there are 2 books of his coming out this
Can I
year.
get a blanket?
There are, yeah.
It's like, isn't it like the same story but from 2 different perspectives, something like that?
Something like that, yeah.
Which is
Double bubble
interesting.
for us, though, isn't it?
Yeah. I honestly have to agree. Before coming into this podcast, and even before revisiting those 2, like the book and the film, I probably would have said the film is superior. But just going back to the source material and just losing myself in McCarthy's writing, it has changed me over the past month in a weird way. I have to agree. I think the book is superior. The film is excellent, as we've all said, but just the book is special. McCarthy is special. And I think there's nothing more beautiful than, like, we're all cinephiles, but there's nothing more beautiful in just rediscovering the passion for reading, and that's been one of the goals of this podcast. And I think whenever we get to one book, like No Country for Old Men, like Filth, like Age of Innocence, like Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, like those are books that make you go like, literature can be oh so brilliant and oh so better than some movies sometimes. So yeah, absolutely, just so happy we've done this. I don't even remember which one of us picked this for the podcast, but I'm just glad. I think maybe you did.
I'll take credit for it, yeah.
Sure,
yeah,
why not?
That's fine.
I don't remember.
I'm not going to say no.
I'm very, very happy we did. So this is it for this episode of Death by Adaptation. Let's go around the table and promote anything that you have going on in your life right now. Jakub, where can the listeners find you?
Recently in the gym.
Hey.
It's just
What's
because
the
I'm
address?
because I need to lose exactly 37 kilo to and then get absolutely jacked. So it's me. Anyway, you can find me on Twitter, talk about film. You can find me on Letterboxd, Jakub Flasz. You can find my writings. Although recently I don't have that much time because stuff's happening and I just don't have time to write. But you can find my stuff on flashandfilm.com and sometimes on Clapper. And then you can also you can and should listen to the show that we're running with Nicolò here, which is Uncut Gems Podcast. So Uncut Gems Pod everywhere. And then uncutgemspodcast.com is the place you want to go. And then also subscribe to our Patreon to listen to extra stuff, which is recently our massively amazing review of the John Carpenter's The Thing. So that's me. Thanks.
Heck yeah. Absolutely listen to it, people. It's such a good time. Ewan, how about you?
Sorry, my lighting in my room, because obviously we started this when it was light and now it's not. It looks like I'm in a shit horror film where it's like they're all on. Like I look like I'm in Unfriended. Jesus,
That's why I always start the podcast, even if it's light outside. I will always put some lights on so that I don't scare people looking like I'm about to murder someone.
I mean, I've got a Talking Heads t-shirt on, so I look like I'm primed and ready to be killed rather than kill someone.
You're
where
not the
can
one
people
who
find
survives.
me? In the bin. That's where people can find me.
The recycle bin or the loony bin?
Both. What's the difference? No, you can get me on Twitter and Letterboxd at Ewan Gleadow, EWANGLEADOW.
Fucked it up.
I did. I gave in. You can get my writing on Cult Following, Geek Show, Narc, Clapper, Horrorwood, Spotlight, Any Volume, Newcastle World, Daily Star, Daily Mirror, Clapper, and you can hear my voice on things like this. And you can also leave me alone.
Well, especially if you have
No.
ABBA
Is this-
or
is
Bob
this-
Dylan opinions.
Or is this just a line from a Michael Jackson song?
Leave me alone.
That was amazing. I felt like we were really with Michael there.
I don't
He's
want to be
back
with
to
Michael
spirit.
because he was a fiddler. So I don't just like I'm
think
too
you're
old. I mean,
safe.
I'm too old
I think
for
you're
him.
safe. I look young enough, probably. I don't know. I don't know.
Imagine it's like, and he just goes like after a whole night with Nicholas. So how old are you? It's like I'm 25, and he goes like, just anyway.
You'd be
never mind.
surprised by how many people. Like I went to the gym to get the subscription last week, and they gave me the parental form to give to my kids. I was like, I'm 25. I was like, what? I was like, yeah. I was like, you don't show it. I was like, you want an ID? No, we trust you. It's like, thanks.
You need to grow a beard. That's what you need to do.
Yeah.
I've tried, but it's patchy. That doesn't work. I want to. I've been trying since I was 6 years old,
6.
and I wanted to be like Viggo Mortensen.
It's been a dream
I
of
want to see
mine
the
since I was a
6-year-old attempt.
child.
I watched Lord of the Rings. I was like, I want to be like Aragorn. I want that beard.
It takes
And they've
months
never
to fill
reached
in.
it.
If you give it like 4 weeks, it's like, oh, it's patchy. Just give it another 4 and it just fills
I
in.
cannot afford it. I've seen the look of disgust of my coworkers when we go to eat together, and I just kind of like remove the mask, and they're like, ah, it's like the Phantom of the Opera. It's like, what's that thing on your face? Just cover it. Hideous. So but it's growing bigger now, you know. But like, you know, who's my role model for this? It's Jay Bauman from Red Letter Media.
Oh,
Took
yeah.
him when he was like, if you see the earlier videos, like 30 years old or something. He
Jay.
still had a
Oh,
horrible
man.
beard, and then after like 3 or 4 years, he just became glorious and like a big man's beard.
You need some
So, you know.
testosterone shots, right? Just
Well, you know, maybe the gym's gonna help. In that
yeah,
sense.
exactly. You know,
Anyway, you can find me at Nicky on Instagram and Twitter at NickyGran97, and there you can find my link tree with links to my short films on YouTube and Vimeo, to my writing on Clapper, and of course to Death by Adaptation, which you can also follow on Twitter at Death Adaptation and on Instagram at Death by Adaptation Pod. I just see Jakub laughing, and I don't know why, but it's making me laugh.
you can find my link tree with links, and I said to my tree.
I try to change up the shtick every time, but it doesn't work. It always backfires in one way or another.
I've just convinced myself of this. You can find my link tree with links to my tree. I lost it. I'm so sorry.
No worries. But yeah, you can follow the podcast there. And of course, as Jakub mentioned, you can find me on the Uncut Gems podcast every week. You can find me on the tree talking about the Uncut Gems podcast. So much good stuff. We've got so many lovely episodes coming out. I want to say when this episode releases, the next week, there will be a new episode of the regular podcast with you and Gleadow joining us, where we talk about
I?
the cinema of one Uwe
Oh,
Boll,
yeah.
talking about House of the Dead and Postal, which we're just about to record. So we are pumped
This is-
for that.
I'm so excited.
He's so excited. Of
He's
course,
just
pour
speaking
myself
with
a
lines
bourbon.
from song. I'm so excited. I just can't hide it.
he's like Bumblebee. You're just going ahead, just repeating.
That's what the people want. They want references and nothing else. Nothing of substance. They just want that over
This is
and
the
over
Marvel
and over.
way.
It is. It's worked for them. Why wouldn't it work for us?
If you've survived this far into the podcast, thank you so much. Remember, if you're on iTunes or if you're on Spotify, leave us 5-star review. And if you're on YouTube listening to this, leave a like, subscribe, and stay tuned, because in 2 weeks' time, we will be talking about something lighter and also something true, real. Our first non-fiction book, The Disaster Artist, about the making of The Room by Tommy Wiseau. So stay tuned for that one. It's bound to be a very fun and lighter episode than this one that we had today. Thank you very much for listening. We hope you have a fabulous day, and we hope to see you soon. Bye bye.